On today's show, we're joined by Alykhan Bijani to break down the Houston Rockets 2022-2023 schedule release, key dates, key games, things we're looking forward to in the schedule, as well as drafting our perfect Rockets road trip. All of that and more coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
The Houston Rockets select Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
You're getting somebody who's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, somebody who's going to come in and compete from day one.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays, host of the State of the Rockets podcast, as well as the founder of ClutchCityControlRoom.com. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets. Joining us now is our once weekly co-host, Alykhan Bijani. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Rockets_Insider. Here to break down our reactions, our thoughts on the Rockets schedule release, as well as, hey, we got a fun segment planned in segment 3. We're going to draft the perfect Rockets road trip. Going to have a little fun with that one. Alykhan, how's it going, my guy?
You know, for all those Rockets fans who used to, call me names because I said I like the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm wearing Rockets red today on schedule release day. So I hope that's taken into consideration by Rockets fans.
He's actually wearing his Ja Morant jersey underneath it, though. That's the part that he's forgetting to tell you guys. All right, Alykhan, we got our Houston Rockets schedule, and this is a cool day, right? Because this is the immediate, you get the chance to kind of, plan out your season a little bit, see what games, marquee matchups, all this good stuff. The Houston Rockets are starting their season officially October 19th, which is a Wednesday, on the road against the Atlanta Hawks. So they will get to visit the
lemon pepper wings.
Lemon pepper wings and the new most villainous backcourt in the entire NBA, DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. So DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green. That should be a really fun game right out of the gate. But also, right out of the gate for this Houston Rockets team, they played 10 of their first, 13 games, right? On the road, which is
2 to 4 game road trips in that span.
Absolutely brutal. And I want to make sure I get the number here right. 10 of Houston's first 13 games will be on the road, including 2 4-game road trips. That ties the most for road games by any team through the first 13 games of a season in NBA history. So they wanted to make sure that the Houston Rockets were going to struggle right out of the gate. This is a conspiracy of the highest order, Alykhan.
But I will say, in Houston, we love fall because it's colder and we're not sweating. And our fall is usually just like nice temperatures outside. From mid-November through Christmas, the Rockets will play 13 out of 19 games at Toyota Center. And they're going to have a season-high 7 straight home games from December 11th through 23rd. So all of you who go to college out of the city, all of you who are going to be vacationing back home or just coming back to Houston during that time period or living in Houston, December 11th to 23rd, that's a great time for you to go catch a Rockets game. So 13 of 19 games there. It's going to be an interesting time. I do want to go back, Jackson, real quick to that first sentence or the first point you brought up when we were doing our little research for today. 10 of 13 games for the first 13 games are on the road. That's tough for a young team that's primarily built of first, second, and some third-year players. I'm curious to see how this team prepares for that. What's going to happen if they go on, I'm not going to say a losing streak to start, but what happens if they don't start out of the gate in the best way and they go through a similar situation of last year when they're losing multiple games in a row in the early part of the season?
Out of those first 13, Alykhan, so we've got the season opener against the Atlanta Hawks is game 1. Home opener is the following game on Saturday, October 21st. against the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm not going to run through every single game on this list of the 13. The list is published. I already share it. We've all, like, 1,000,001 people have already shared it online on the Twitter sphere. I posted a picture of it to the Locked On Rockets YouTube channel the moment it was released. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's there. I will include links to it in the episode description, but we will not be reciting all 82 games in a row.
You sure?
That's terrible.
You don't want to
content.
go through what November 25th and 26th, the back-to-back at home is? You don't want to tell the fans that? I think it's a very exciting back-to-back.
No, we're not going through. We're not doing that. But what we will do,
by the way, sorry.
What we will do, we're going to highlight some key moments, games we're probably, most looking forward to on the schedule. We'll do that. But of those first 13 games, Alykhan, of those, Utah, they play Utah back-to-back. So they actually play once in Houston and then once on the road. Those are the only two games that I feel, and then maybe Orlando, depending on who you ask. Those are the only favorable opponents the Rockets face out of those first 13 games. They could very easily come out of the gate and be 3-10 to start the season, which would be yet another pretty brutal start. Not quite 1-15 territory, but people were calling for Steven Silas to be fired last year after that 1-15 start. And it could very easily happen again this season if they're in a 3-13 hole to start the year.
I want you to repeat those three teams again, Jackson. Which three teams do you think they're going to get wins with? Possibly.
Well, the worst part is it's two teams. It's not three teams. It's just they play one of them twice, and that's the Utah Jazz and the Orlando Magic, and that's it.
They play a home and home against Utah, and if you go back to last season when the Rockets played some home and homes, they usually lost one of the games and they won one of the games. Let's say you give them one, and let's say you play Orlando. And, Orlando beat the Rockets in Summer League. Maybe the Rockets come back and they win this one. You give them two. Where else are you seeing a win, man?
I mean, that's just it. It's not even like at that point. Yeah, then maybe even like 2-11 to start out of the gate, which is even tougher to kind of stomach and think about. So all I'm going to say is I will urge Rockets fans to not overreact to this beginning portion of the schedule, because right out of the gate, the Rockets have a ridiculously tough schedule. And I think it was HP Basketball on Twitter who shared like the strength of schedule, or the teams with like the 5 teams with like the toughest schedules across the entire NBA. And a lot of the bottom feeder teams were on there, and the Rockets were on that list.
They had the third hardest strength of schedule in the NBA.
There you go. And it's important to note, one of the reasons that the teams that always have the hardest schedules in the NBA are the bad teams at the bottom. It's because they don't get to play themselves. Like the Rockets don't get to play themselves, so they don't get that easier opponent thrown into the mix, as well as the other bad teams by comparison. But Alykhan, coming up, I want to take a look at some of the key dates, key matchups throughout the schedule. We're going to get there in just a moment after a quick message from our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your sports betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every single league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL. They got you covered for combat sports, UFC, MMA, boxing, you name it. They've got it over there at BetOnline, including esports, even golf. They've got you covered for everything over at BetOnline. Right now, you can take a look at who are the odds-on favorites to win the 2023 NBA title. The Boston Celtics leading the way at plus 400. You got the Milwaukee Bucks right behind them at plus 550. The Golden State Warriors in third place, so not the favorites to repeat, at plus 700. And then rounding out the top 5, you got John Wall's new home, the LA Clippers at plus 750, and the Phoenix Suns at plus 1,000. So for all of that and more odds, head to their website today to learn more about the trends in action available to you. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, Alykhan and I are going to kind of navigate the schedule a little bit. Again, we are not going line by line through this. That is not what this podcast is about. However, we do want to highlight some of the key games that stand out to us on the schedule as it stands right now. And the first thing that is important to note is the Rockets have 13 sets of back-to-back games this season, including 2 within the first 8 games and 4 in March. So March is going to be a bit of a brutal stretch of the schedule for the Houston Rockets. Again, at that point in the season, we're probably going to be very well aware of where they stand as far as, potential lottery positioning, all that stuff. And honestly, the multiple sets of back-to-backs down the line may help the Rockets secure some, much desired lottery positioning as we near the tail end of the season. But We're going to take a look right here. We'll start with October, and we'll kind of go month by month as far as what games kind of stand out from the schedule, at least to navigate the season that way. And looking at October, we have the season opener. Obviously, that is an important date, and then we have the home opener. So those are both against the Atlanta Hawks and the Memphis Grizzlies. Mentioned those two games earlier, October 19th and 21st, respectively. Past that, as far as October goes, I don't really see any other games that jump out off the page to me, Alykhan, as far as like, this is going to be a marquee matchup. This is going to be a really important opponent, whatever, except for I will throw out the LA Clippers. The Rockets are going to play them October 31st. And this is going to be like, supposedly, right, health permitting, this is going to be like the new, I can't say the new version of the Clippers, but it's not going to be the version we saw last year, right? So like Kawhi is supposed to be healthy. PG-13 will be back. They'll have John Wall. So it won't be the return of John Wall to Toyota Center quite just yet, but the Rockets will be able to see John Wall suited up in another uniform.
Yeah. So John Wall, we can tie in early November here, but John Wall will make his return to Houston with the Clippers on November 2nd. Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So that's one thing. Going back into October, I want to point out a few games. First is that Utah back-to-back. And why that's important to me is I really like watching this young Rockets team play back-to-backs. That late season back-to-back they had versus Sacramento showed me a lot. It showed me what the coaching staff can do when they play the same opponent again. It showed me how the players reacted and were able to adjust to the same opponent again. It's a great way for us to be able to see when they are talking about going to the film room and pointing out their mistakes and looking to fix them. Can they come back that next game and fix them? So that back-to-back against Utah will be very interesting to me, especially because they're coached against Will Hardy, who was very well respected and somebody well thought of in the league to be a very organized head coach. So very, very excited to see how that matchup and where that goes. Now I'm going to get into November here. That Clippers you talked about. And what's interesting is they play October 30th, which is Phoenix. Then they fly to LA the next day and they play the Clippers that same night. So back-to-back against Phoenix and the Clippers. Very tough on a Sunday and a Monday. Then you play the Clippers back at home on Wednesday. And then you play the Timberwolves. You play the Magic. You got the Pelicans coming up for that. You got the Clippers again. You got Clippers 3 times those first opening games. You know what sticks out to me, Jackson? When you look at these teams that the Rockets are playing in the early part of the season, the big thing that sticks out to me is they were all really good rebounding teams last season. And for a team like the Rockets who struggles rebounding, and you're going to have Alperen Sengun starting at the 5, potentially Jabari Smith or Jae'Sean Tate. Then you have Eric Gordon as well, and you're probably going to have Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. round out your 5. I'm interested in seeing, can the Rockets become a better defensive rebounding team? And that comes from being a better defensive team in the first place. So to me, this early stretch is a great way for me to see that all this talk that Steven Silas is doing, that I'm focusing on defense. And all these new players that are coming in, even though they're new, can they at least help the Rockets be middle of the pack? And we've talked about this on a previous episode about, can the Rockets, get to that level? And to me, that will be really important as you're going from October, November, because these are all great rebounding teams. And it's going to be very imperative for their bigs to be able to box out, for their guards to be able to come in, for them to be able to get back in transition. It's really good test early on for that. I want to highlight a couple games later in November. You got Golden State, defending champs, at home Sunday, November 20th, at 6 p.m. tip. That will be fun. Always fun when Steph Curry comes to town. You're gonna get canceled for that. You know what I think of Draymond Green, and there's a funny story. I don't know if our listeners know this. There was a game during the pandemic where the Warriors came, they played the Rockets, and it was like it was a close game in third quarter. Steph went off. But then there was that Christian Wood play where he just dropped Draymond. Like, he just crossed him over and fell down. It was on ESPN. And after that game, Draymond, I was asking Draymond Green about Christian. I was working on a story, and I wanted Draymond's thoughts, because Draymond's very great with media. He knows how to talk about players and how and their growth and development. So I asked him about Christian Wood, and then he like kind of scared me a little. He's like, you only asking me that because he crossed me over. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I got really nervous. I was like, oh man, like I don't want to make you mad, Draymond. I'm sorry. And then Draymond was like, nah, that's fine. I'm just messing with you. But
this was when they made the Clutch Points article about you. And you got thrown on a Clutch Points graphic. Oh, I remember this. This was great.
Yeah, they used a picture of me from 2015 It was 2020 or 2021 back then. It was 6 years ago, man. I looked like I was a freshman in college.
Clutch points
anyways.
did you so wrong.
Yeah, man, it was bad. But anyways, so Draymond's cool people, man. He's a really nice guy. He was just messing with me there. So always fun with when Golden State comes into town. But the last thing for me on November, the Rockets will play Denver on a back-to-back in Denver. Sorry, not back-to-back, a 2-game set versus the Nuggets in Denver on the 20th and 30th. You're hoping Murray's back healthy. You're hoping Porter Jr.'s back healthy, and you're playing Jokic. And obviously, Alperen Sengun's relationship with Jokic. I think that's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great way for us to be able to see how the Rockets are doing against another great Western Conference team and somebody that they can, like I said, back-to-backs are a great way for us to be able to learn about what the Rockets are doing adjustment-wise on a day-to-day basis as they're going through the course of the season. So those games against the Clippers, Utah, and Denver early on stand out to me as great tests for us to be able to go back and do some analysis on how they're doing.
I'm really glad you brought up too, and this is why we pay you the big bucks, because your eyes caught the early home and home against the Utah Jazz. And even though home and home, or at times throughout this season and throughout times last season, the Rockets would travel on a road trip and they play the same team twice in the same city, and it felt like the NBA as a whole did that quite a bit more this past season. And even Steven Silas, admitted the fact that that is a great tool for him as a coach last season. He basically explained to us that allows him kind of like, it's like a mini playoff series almost, to where they can, execute in game one. He can go back and look at film and they can make those necessary adjustments going into game two. So I do think it really helps, a young coach like Steven Silas be able to immediately go back and address to the team, say, hey, this is where we messed up. This is what we need to improve on. This is what we need to get better at. And then face that exact same opponent the very next game. That's got to be a great learning tool for him. So glad you highlighted that. And it's great that the Rockets have a handful of those types of matchups throughout the schedule. Just in the early going, the first couple months, they've got the Utah one. They do have the LA Clippers, a bunch of LA Clippers game, even though they're not like straight up back to back. They do have that one. They've got the third one as well, not too far removed from those first two. The Denver set as well at the very end of November. But the two things that you didn't highlight in November that I thought you would, because I thought this was low-hanging fruit, the very first matchup between Jabari Smith Jr. and Paolo Banchero against the Orlando Magic.
Well, why is that a big deal?
That is a big deal because they're top picks.
Why?
Dude, I need you to understand, the one time TNT came to Houston last year was for Cade versus Jalen. That was the only nationally televised game where ESPN, or not ESPN. Yeah, no, it was ESPN.
A big deal to the players,
TNT.
or is it a bigger deal to the fans?
It's a gigantic deal to the fans, and I think the players care about it a little bit.
Do you think Paolo cares or Jabari cares more?
I think Paolo cares more.
Interesting. I think Jabari will care more. I think Jabari will have a great game that day. I think Toyota Center. Actually, this is in Orlando. I think it'll be an interesting game for Jabari since he's playing in Orlando too. I'm eager to see how well he does. We always talk about, and I'm glad you brought this up. I wanted you to bring it up. We always talk about Jabari as a player who really sticks out, right? Like, he's a guy who has this great personality, great aura about him. Everybody talks so highly of him and his person, and just how he is as a person, as a competitor, his defensive instincts, all these different things. This is a great game for us to be able to see how he does in those situations.
Absolutely.
And I know he's a kind of guy, and he's already great with the media. I don't think he's gonna, put too much emphasis out there publicly. But I know, and Jackson, this game is gonna be a big deal. You saw the reaction after he was drafted, number 3 overall, and what he said, right? I think this will be an interesting game for us to be able to see all that we've heard about Jabari Smith in terms of what he does in those moments.
Absolutely, right? He said and did all the right things during Summer League. Summer League, bit of a different environment, right? That's a neutral zone, right? You've got fans from all teams there. It's going to be a different, kind of a different beast when you're, walking into Orlando and you've got all these Orlando Magic fans around you and you're thinking, man, this could have been my team and they chose him over me. That whole dynamic, that's a lot for a young player. So it'll be great to see kind of how he reacts to that. Coming up, we're going to keep navigating through the schedule, taking a look at some of the key dates, key moments, all that good stuff, as well as drafting our Rockets road trip. We're going to get there in just one moment. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. Go search up Locked On Rockets on YouTube. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, there was on the tail end of November there, Alykhan, is also the first meetup between Jabari Smith Jr. and Chet Holmgren, which again, maybe it's billed as more of a thing between, for the fans, right, to get hyped about, top rookies playing one another. But again, I am excited by that potential matchup just to see, right, Jabari had Chet kind of locked up a little bit there in Summer League, looked great playing against him. And that's a matchup that I really, am looking forward to. It's always just fun to see these top rookies kind of go at one another every single season. So I'm definitely looking forward to that game. And then we're going to separate this a little bit more. We're just going to say, pre-All-Star break and then post-All-Star break, any other standouts on the schedule to kind of conserve a little bit of time here. And for me, that stretch in December, the Rockets starting December 11th all the way through after Christmas, because they don't play on Christmas Day. So the Rockets, unfortunately, they're not going to give the Rockets Christmas Day basketball. The Rockets play 7 straight home games, December 11th through December 23rd. And even before that December 11th game, they play their last road game in San Antonio, December 8th, which is, a very quick road trip that's right down the street. I think that's going to be huge for that series of 7 games in a row, starting with the Milwaukee Bucks, ending with the Dallas Mavericks on the 23rd of December. Having that 7-game homestand is going to be really nice for practice, for continuity, to kind of be in one location and be able to hammer in some of those early principles from whatever they're working on in the early going of the season to really kind of try to fortify some of those early lessons, early teachings there. Because one of the issues that you face as an NBA head coach, right, is trying to find like adequate amount of time to practice, to do shoot arounds, to do walkthroughs, and figuring out that and kind of working within the confines of the NBA schedule. So having a huge 7-game homestand like that could be really, really helpful for Steven Silas and the rest of the coaching staff.
Yeah, man. Inshallah. It'll be a great time for the Rockets to be able to get some continuity, build some chemistry together. And you hear this across the league. I think it's a really big deal when teams just are able to have some continuity there. I think that film you'll get and that experience against Milwaukee and Phoenix will help them. And then when they play Orlando and Dallas the 21st and 23rd, you'll see some growth and development there. I want to go to the latter half of after Christmas. They play in Chicago. I feel like Rockets games always in Chicago are really close, really fun games. And so just shout out to Chicago, Illinois. Then we have our, normal every New Year's Eve night game before fireworks against the New York Knicks this year. What's interesting? I went to a New York Knicks game on Christmas Eve when they played here. I think it was against the Knicks a couple years ago when a young man by the name of James Harden went off for a very good game. So Knicks at home in Houston should be a good game on Christmas Eve. I want to go into something in January that I found really interesting. And the reason why I think this game is interesting is because you play Cleveland on a Thursday night. Then you go to Detroit. You basically play Evan Mobley and Cade Cunningham in back-to-back games. And I'm really, really interested to seeing how Jalen plays in both of those games. I think the Twitter hype, the Reddit hype, the Instagram hype, the hype between both fan bases will be great for both of those games. I just think they're always going to be connected. So I'm really excited to see that. And then we go to February and we get our, again, back-to-back against Sacramento. The Rockets play Sacramento 4 times this season, by the way.
Yeah, okay? and both times it's home and homes, both times. That's so
and
weird.
Home and home. Not home and home. They're back-to-back games against the same team, but they're in the same location. So January 11 and 13, they play in Sacramento. So 2 games in a row in Sacramento. And then February 6th and 8th, they play Sacramento at home in Houston.
What do we even call that? Because you're right, it's not a home and home when they do that. What do we even call that? A home and home? No, that's not.
This exact scenario happened last season. So I think it's very interesting. And also shout out to Miami, great city, great people. And there's a game on February 10th with the Rockets and the Heat. So how about you? What else stands out after the All-Star break?
Oh, Lord, I hope they don't hit up the booby trap again in Miami. Please do not take the rookies to the booby trap.
I have no idea what that is.
Are you serious?
No.
The strip,
I mean, yeah.
the strip club incident with KPJ.
No, I mean, I've honestly have no idea.
KPJ, Sterling Brown. Oh man, this is Rockets
All right, let's
history,
move on to
Alykhan.
post All-Star break, Jackson. You know what I mean?
Oh man. All right. You know what? We'll save that for another time. A lot of Rockets fans remember that one though. You're good. You're just lost. It's fine. It's okay. You just lost some street cred because you don't know about what the booby trap is. It's all good. I mean, just kind of looking at the tail end rest of the schedule, the Rockets have another big homestand there in March, which will be again really solid. It's a nice little 6-game homestand, kind of in the midst of all their road games to close out the season. But again, they do close out the season playing a majority of their games on the road, and then 2 games to close out the season. So it's going to be kind of lame that they don't close out the season at home. That was, a special moment for a lot of Rockets fans this past year, having that game against the Atlanta Hawks to end the season, which I guess in retrospect, it's kind of funny. You end the last season against the Atlanta Hawks, and now you start this season against the Atlanta Hawks on the road in Atlanta.
Back to back Jalen 40-point games. And by the way, those 2 games I talked about with Detroit and Cleveland, that's during NBA rivalry week. So the NBA has essentially deemed that the Cavs and the Pistons, I guess, are the Rockets' rivals. Very interesting how that works out. And then also, by the way, I'm a big fan of these back-to-backs. I think most of the podcast is me talking about those games when you play 2 teams in a row. New Orleans, March 17th and 19th at home. At Memphis, March 22nd and 24th. Some great tests coming up for this team to be able to get some knowledge about these young players. And then for those of you who like watching LeBron James, potentially greatest of all-time player, he'll be in Houston April 2nd, Sunday, 6 p.m., and then also be in Houston March 15th, Wednesday at 7 p.m. So both of those games, I'm sure, will be sellouts at Toyota Center. And his most recent visit to Toyota Center, Jackson, was a game where Jalen went off in the clutch, and then the Rockets went turbo nuclear button in overtime and got the win. So always fun when LeBron and the Lakers come. I feel like every game in Houston when the Lakers play, or just any LeBron team in Houston, there's something about LeBron coming to Houston that brings out his best and then brings out the Rockets' best. And I'm always excited and eager to watch those games live.
I'm going to be completely honest with you, Alykhan. I will call it right now. There is not a chance in hell that LeBron is playing an April 2nd game against the Houston Rockets. Like that, because by then the Lakers will either have their playoff seeding locked in or it won't matter, and he's going to be shut down and resting that game.
If he plays, I will come to Toyota Center. If he plays, I will come to Toyota Center in a LeBron James jersey.
Okay, all right.
Oh, wait. Sorry. If he doesn't play, if he doesn't play. Okay, there we go. Even better. All right, I love it. We've got the receipts here on the show. It's perfect. I love it. With that, Alykhan, let's wrap things up here. We're going to draft, and we figured this would be a little fun here. We're going to draft our perfect Rockets road trip, if you will. So we're going to, here are the rules of the contest. We're each going to draft 3 cities that we would most want to go see the Rockets play in another city. It can also, we can factor in, right, sightseeing, stuff like that in the other city, culture, whatever, all that. So you can factor in whatever values you want. I'm going to give Alykhan the first pick because I'm nice. And we're just going to go back and forth. Do you want to do snake drafts? So like you, then me, then you, or just back and forth till we're done? Let's just do back and forth. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'll give you first dibs on the city that you would want to travel to and check out the Rockets play in.
I would want to go to Miami first.
Okay, so Alykhan's all about the nightlife. Got it.
No, let me tell you why. There's a couple
South Beach Bijani.
Yeah, South Beach Bijani. No, I'm serious. So I've never been to Miami before, and I've heard so many great things about the city, the food, the culture. There's actually some really good Indian food there. I heard there's a place called Ellie's Desi Kitchen or something like that. I think that's the name. There's a lot of really good Indian food options that I've heard, and I've seen a lot of TikToks of a lot of the local dessert places and stuff. So I don't know. I just really want to go to Miami, and also because Eric Spoelstra to me is the best coach in the NBA, and getting to watch a tactician like that live in person and watching his team is always fun. So for me, I'll take Miami. Okay.
All right. I can respect Miami with the first pick of the draft. That's a solid one. I'm going to go New York, and maybe it's cliche. I don't know, but I desperately want to be able to, attend a game in Madison Square Garden, obviously a building with a ton of history. New York, the city I've never once visited. So the idea of one, attending a Rockets game there, and then 2, being able to actually experience New York and see the Big Apple, do some of the touristy sightseeing stuff, all that crap. It's very high on my list of things that I want to accomplish. established. So I'm going to go with New York with my first pick.
Okay. I'm next, right? I'm going to go with Chicago.
Okay.
So my brother, and I've posted about it, smart, genius kid, man. He's going to school over there, really good school. And so I want to take him to Chicago. So I think for me, my second choice would be going to Chicago. Chicago is also a very beautiful city, a lot of great people in it. Definitely want to be able to check it out. So yeah, Chicago is definitely. Oh, by the way, Chicago has a ton of great brunch spots. I'm not sure if you knew that. So
I did not know that.
If you are a fan of brunch, Chicago's a good place to go.
I thought Chicago was like the deep dish pizza spot. Is that not a thing? I mean, that's a thing too, but like,
yeah.
All right. Okay. I like the Chicago pick. I'm a little annoyed because Chicago was going to be one of my picks. So I'm having to pivot here a little bit. I'm going to go
my third one. I'm going to get really disappointed. But let's see.
Oh, all right. We'll see. I'm going to go Sacramento. I'm going to take Sacramento. I'm going to take Sacramento.
What?
What? What? I want to go check out Sacramento.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast show for everything Houston Rockets basketball. I am your host, Jackson Gatlin, who would choose Sacramento over other cities like Boston and Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Hey,
I mean,
I'm going.
come on,
hey, first off, this is my list. I've visited some of those other cities already. Okay,
right,
you got pump the brakes there. Pump the brakes on the hate train, man. God, I didn't realize this segment was going to be so adversarial. This was supposed to be light and breezy, man. Why are you bullying me on my podcast? All right, I'm picking Sacramento, and you can deal with it, Alykhan. What's your third pick?
Washington, D.C. Let me tell you, for those of you who live in D.C. or go by D.C. or want to travel to D.C., it's great city. Make sure you go to Lucky Buns. It's like a chicken sandwich burger place, and it's one of the few places in the entire country I rate their food 10 out of 10. It is phenomenal. And I just want to go back because when I lived in D.C., I went there like 12 to 15 times, and I really miss going to get some Lucky Buns, so I want to go eat some burgers and sandwiches there. But also because Capital One Arena is really great. You don't have to have a car there. You can literally take the metro anywhere. You can walk everywhere there. Beautiful city, beautiful people. Nature in Virginia is great. So yeah, DC it is for me for my third choice.
You just completely screwed yourself over because now I can go clip out the part of you saying I miss those Lucky Buns, and that's not going to end well for you.
I can do that to you right now. You just said it too.
That's fine. I mean, you can, but it's funnier if I clip you doing it because I say stupid crap all the time. You kind of don't. So, all right. God, this is the most derailed segment we've ever done. This is fantastic. All right, and this is the best part because you left your third pick for me, and I know you're gonna be mad about this. I'm taking Memphis.
I'm not a fan of the Grizzlies. Where did you get that idea from?
I'm taking Memphis, and I've been to Memphis before, but I desperately want to go back. I love it there. It's a fantastic city. It's really cool. So many different things to sightsee. If you ever have the chance to visit, I highly recommend checking out the National Civil Rights Museum. It was a fantastic experience to be able to just be there and absorb the history, the knowledge, all of it. And then as well as the arena is fantastic. Again, I didn't get to go there for an NBA game. I didn't get to go see the Rockets play there. I was there covering Cougars men's basketball, which was still a ton of fun, but I definitely want to be there for a Rockets game. And then the food, man, the barbecue. Oh, it was so good.
Man, we got a lot of Texas barbecue folks listening to the show, man. You got to relax there.
I'm gonna lose my Texas barbecue endorsements that I don't have. So if you want to endorse the show, my email's in the bio. So yeah, no, all right, that's my final pick. So that leaves us with let's go top to bottom again. Your three were
Miami, Chicago, and Washington.
Okay, and then my three were New York, Sacramento, Memphis. I feel like your list is going to completely destroy mine, but you can vote in the comments. Let us know who had the better Rockets road trip list. And I'm going to get completely dumpstered for my Sacramento pick, but I'll live with it.
Yeah. I know. I
have friends in Sacramento, so that's another reason. Like, leave me alone.
I know. We're going to be talking about this for a couple months. This exact segment. This is going to be very interesting. But Jackson, I wanted to actually. I know we're about to wrap up here in a second. I wanted to ask you no, it's a good thing. When you watch Rockets basketball, what day do you think about the most? Like when you're watching and like you think back to when you used to watch Rockets games, which day is that for you?
I'm going to say I feel like Wednesdays, like a lot. Like I feel like Wednesday is the day.
For me, I feel like for me, when I used to watch Rockets games, it used to always be Fridays. And so there's a list that Jackson and I have that we're going to share with our audience that goes through how many games the Rockets will play on each day of the week and also how many of them are home games. And this was very popular when I tweeted this out on Twitter. So I want to make sure I share it with our listeners. So the Rockets have 16 games on Monday. 9 of them are going to be at home. 5 on Tuesday. 4 of them at home. And by the way, for those of you wondering why only 5 on Tuesday, those are usually reserved for those TNT Tuesday games. And so let's be honest, Rockets are not going to be on TNT much. I mean, they're not, but just they're not going to be. Wednesday, 18. So you're right, Jackson. The Rockets play most of their games this season on Wednesdays, and 8 of them are going to be at home. 6 on Thursdays, once again, one of those kind of nights where it's like a national TV night. 3 of them are going to be at home. 6 on Thursdays. Fridays, 14. 7 of them at home. Friday night games at Toyota Center are always fun. I don't know. The vibe is always great on Friday nights at Toyota Center. 12 on Saturday, only 4 of them at home. So it looks like a lot of Saturday nights where Rockets fans are watching Rockets games. 11 on Sunday, 6 at home. I think that's pretty normal. I feel like Sundays are also a great day for Rockets games. I feel like we have a lot of Sunday games usually. So 6 of them at home. So I'm going to go again. 16 on Monday, 9 of them at home. 5 on Tuesday, 4 at home. 18 on Wednesday, 8 of them at home. 6 on Thursday, 3 of them at home. 14 on Friday, 7 of them at home. 12 on Saturday, 4 of them at home. 11 on Sunday, 6 of them at home. So looks like Jackson will be watching a lot of Rockets basketball on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays together.
Absolutely. It's going to be a ton of fun. And of course, we're going to have that all broken down here, all the action, all the recaps, all the analysis, all the terrible derailed segments between you and I. It's all going to be right here at Locked on Rockets. But Alykhan, you know the drill. Let everybody know where to track you down at.
You can follow me on Twitter at Rockets_insider and make sure you're following us at Locked on Rockets here and on YouTube. And like Jackson said, we have a lot of great stuff coming for you. We've been waiting to do it. We will be doing it next week. We promise. Ty Washington breakdown film room. It's ready. I have some great stuff that I want to share that scouts have told me about Ty with you, all the listeners. So it'll be a good time.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked on Rockets. As always, appreciate you for checking out the show. Do me a favor, go in the comments, vote for my list of cities, not Alykhan's. So go do that. That would be fantastic. But as always, appreciate you for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcast, free and available on all podcast platforms. We're also on YouTube. So go to YouTube, search Locked on Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked on Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.